Many relationships reach a point where the forward momentum simply stops. Two people can share the same space, yet the distance between them feels unbridgeable. But instead of walking away, one or both partners stay, paralyzed by the thought of starting the entire dating process over from scratch. It is common to feel that initial disconnect early on. A quiet intuition signals that the foundation is missing, yet we often choose to drown out that inner voice. We convince ourselves to keep trying because the other person is pleasant or polite, ignoring the reality that a nice demeanor cannot substitute for true alignment. Relationship coach Stefan Speaks points out that staying out of convenience is a guaranteed path to failure. If the bond is not built on a genuine desire to be with that specific individual, no amount of effort will suddenly construct a strong foundation where none exists. We spend months cataloging our partner's moods and shifty behaviors, looking for external reasons for a feeling we have already named internally. By refusing to accept what we already know, we actively choose to stretch what should have been a brief 2-week dating experience into years of misplaced commitment. We are taught from a young age that when we find something good, we must hold on to it at all costs. There is a deeply ingrained fear that if we let go of a relationship, we might never experience love again. As comedian James Corden observes, this behavior is a lot like a child clutching a balloon. We tie the string tightly to our wrist, terrified it might float away. But over time, the balloon inevitably loses the exact helium that made it float in the first place. This chart illustrates the disconnect. The relationship's vitality plummets to near zero, while our attachment remains flat and unyielding. By maintaining this rigid grip as the timeline extends endlessly, our hands are entirely occupied, lacking the space to catch anything else. Letting go is about more than just the balloon you lose. It is about the hand you get back. When you finally release a connection that has long since wilted, you stop living in a state of defense and can finally re-engage with the world as it actually is. After walking away, the resulting solitude often triggers a new anxiety. Especially as the years pass, there is a pervasive societal pressure that suggests being single at a certain age means you are somehow failing to keep up with your peers. Psychotherapist Lori Gottlieb argues that these timelines are entirely artificial. The only metric of actual value is whether you are using that solitary time to do the internal work, examining your patterns, and understanding your own role in past relationship dynamics. Without that examination, we fall prey to what Gottlieb calls our unfinished business. If you grew up around neglect or volatility, your unconscious mind will often seek out that familiar pain. On the surface, a new partner might look different, but eventually you realize they perfectly mirror the exact dynamics that hurt you in the past. A person standing alone, actively dissecting their past traumas, is much closer to a stable partnership than someone hiding inside an unexamined, comfortable but repeating cycle of pain. We often treat dating like a search for a missing piece. We operate under the assumption that if we can just find the right partner, that external event will finally cure our internal feelings of loneliness or inadequacy. Researcher Dr. Joe Dispenza points out a neurological roadblock in this approach. If your baseline emotional state is rooted in survival and separation, you are projecting that exact frequency. You cannot attract a state of joy while actively broadcasting a state of lack. This diagram illustrates how we often misinterpret our interactions. When we operate from lack, we mistake the thrill on the left, where edges barely touch and we present an optimized, fake version of ourselves, for something real. That is simply chemistry. The right side illustrates true connection, where paths and purposes actually slide to heavily overlap. To find out if that overlap actually exists, we have to drop our representative and stop pretending. This requires the courage to ask difficult questions early on, risking the destruction of a surface-level fantasy to see if the structural alignment holds up. When you cultivate a sense of wholeness independently, your standards shift. You stop reaching for anyone who can fill a void, and start recognizing people who match your own level of transparency and self-awareness. Even when we find someone who aligns with us, modern dating culture introduces a new hazard. We start evaluating potential partners the same way we shop for consumer electronics. paralyzed by the fear that if we commit now, we might miss out on an upgraded version tomorrow. Relationship coach Matthew Hussey warns that treating humans as items to be optimized is highly limiting. We focus on superficial checklists, worrying if they make the right income or fit our usual physical type, and ignore the raw materials of a good connection. This optimization mindset also traps us in fictional narratives, like the idea of the right person, wrong time. We mourn someone who exists on the planet but actively chooses not to be with us, preferring to live in a science fiction scenario rather than dealing with the reality in front of us. We constantly worry about settling, but there is a massive distinction between settling for someone out of fear of being alone and the deliberate, powerful act of settling on someone. Settling on someone is an active choice to commit and build. If they don't clearly see you, fully accept you, and actively choose you right now, they failed the baseline test. A relationship is only worth having if both people are present and willing to choose each other today. Once you make that choice, the focus shifts from finding a partner to the daily reality of keeping them, dispelling the myth that true love means seeing eye to eye on everything and never having a disagreement. The truth is, conflict is inevitable. Psychologists refer to this as the cycle of rupture and repair. How a couple handles a disagreement in the present, whether they can step away, cool off, and return to take accountability without shame, is the single most accurate predictor of what their shared future will look like. Author and advocate Radhi Devlukia Shetty notes that navigating these repairs requires absolute presence. We often assume that the sheer volume of time spent with someone equals investment, but hours of distracted coexistence mean very little. 15 minutes of pure, undistracted attention during a moment of repair fuels a relationship far more than an entire day of superficial proximity. It is in these quiet, focused moments that trust is actually forged. The extraordinary connections we seek are sculpted over time, starting with our own healing. It is built through the daily choice to look past surface chemistry and commit to the hard, rewarding labor of repair.